The Prime Minister held his first rally since the abrogation of Article 370 in Srinagar today. The Bakshi Stadium was packed with the young, the old, kids, everyone coming out to catch a glimpse of Prime Minister Modi to hear his vision of a Viksit Jammu and Kashmir. PM Modi's message was clear. He spoke of a Badalta Kashmir and said that the progress of Srinagar was crucial to the overall progress of Naya Bharat. He also hit out at dynastic parties and families, saying that they were at the core of the problems that Jammu and Kashmir had faced in the past. My colleague Pooja Shali was in Srinagar. She, along with Ashraf Wani, have our lead story tonight.
जम्मू कश्मीर केवल एक क्षेत्र नहीं है, ये जम्मू कश्मीर भारत का मस्तक है.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi returning to Kashmir after nearly 5 years. And the valley has undergone a sea change since then. Article 370 is history, putting Kashmir on the road to full integration with India. On his first visit since the abrogation of Article 370, Prime Minister Modi said his government ended decades of bias.
जम्मू कश्मीर आज खुल करके सांस ले रहा है. बंदिशों से ये आजादी आर्टिकल 370 हटने के बाद आई है. दशकों तक सियासी फायदे के लिए कांग्रेस और उसके साथियों ने 370 के नाम पर जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को गुमराह किया, देश को गुमराह किया.
The Prime Minister also trained guns on the Congress, National Conference and PDP for keeping Parivar before the welfare of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
परिवारवादी पार्टियों ने जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को दशकों तक इन अधिकारों से वंचित रखा. आज हर वर्ग को उनके अधिकार लौटाए जा रहे हैं. जम्मू कश्मीर में परिवारवाद और भ्रष्टाचार का एक बहुत बड़ी भुक्तभोगी रही है हमारी जे.एन.के बैंक. इस बैंक को तबाह करने में यहां की पहले की सरकारों ने कोई कोर कसर बाकी नहीं छोड़ी थी.
The Prime Minister also said there was an era when the people of Jammu and Kashmir were deprived of benefits, and now the valley is flourishing under Modi Sarkar.
कुछ परिवारों के फायदे के लिए जम्मू कश्मीर को जंजीरों में जकड़ दिया गया था. आज 370 नहीं है, इसलिए जम्मू कश्मीर के युवाओं की प्रतिभा का पूरा सम्मान हो रहा है. उन्हें नए अवसर मिल रहे हैं.
In his first visit to Kashmir after Article 370 purge, Prime Minister Modi unveiled multiple development projects worth more than 6,400 crore rupees during the Viksit Bharat, Viksit Jammu Kashmir program at Srinagar's Bakshi Stadium.
मोदी अपने परिवार को विश्वास देकर जा रहा है कि जम्मू कश्मीर के विकास का यह अभियान किसी कीमत पर नहीं रुकेगा. अगले 5 वर्षों में जम्मू कश्मीर और तेजी से विकास करेगा.
With Pooja Shali in Srinagar, Bureau Report, India Today.
Since the abrogation of Article 370, Jammu and Kashmir has seen many changes. Earlier, our viewers would recall all the stone pelting, the continuous terror attacks that used to happen in different places. From there, the effort now is on developing Jammu and Kashmir, reducing corruption, and trying to ensure that the infrastructure projects which are commissioned by the centre are actually executed on the ground. Prime Minister Modi's visit was high on sentiment and symbolism. He paid homage to the revered Shankaracharya Hill. He wished the crowd that he had gathered there for Shivratri and Ramzan, and also posed for a selfie with a budding entrepreneur from the valley. It was a visit marked by an emotional connect and a diverse outreach.
A warm welcome awaits. Prime Minister Narendra Modi pays homage to the majestic and revered Shankaracharya Hill. exploring the breathtaking beauty of Srinagar amidst the promise of a revitalized Kashmir. His first visit since the repeal of Article 370.
Now we don't see stone pelting, we don't see mass violence, and I'm glad to see that young boys and girls go to their schools, finish their education in town, which is natural or normal for you and I, was not normal for a Kashmiri child. I've seen Kashmir change for the better, and it means a lot. It means a lot to me because I never thought somebody will have the guts to do it. But my hope is that the peace will continue.
A jubilant reception for the Prime Minister in the valley.
हम बड़ी खुशी से मोदी साहब यहाँ आएंगे, यहाँ बहुत सारी मुल्क से आएंगे यहाँ लोग।
आज हम मोदी जी को स्वागत करने लिए आया हूँ। मोदी जी ने हमारा देश बनाया है, पूरे वर्ल्ड में देश मोदी जी का नाम बड़ा नाम है।
Launching 53 projects worth 6,400 crore rupees under the Viksit Bharat, Viksit Jammu Kashmir program.
जम्मू कश्मीर केवल एक क्षेत्र नहीं है, ये जम्मू कश्मीर भारत का मस्तक है और ऊंचा उठा मस्तक ही विकास और सम्मान का प्रतीक होता है। इसलिए विकसित जम्मू कश्मीर विकसित भारत की प्राथमिकता है।
As an advocate for the region's charm and rapid infrastructure development, the Prime Minister promoted Naya Kashmir as an ideal wedding destination.
अब मेरा दूसरा मिशन है वेड इन इंडिया। पूरी दुनिया ने देखा कि कैसे यहां जम्मू कश्मीर में G20 का शानदार आयोजन हुआ। आज यहां जम्मू कश्मीर में पर्यटन के सारे रिकॉर्ड टूट रहे हैं। अकेले 2023 में ही 2 करोड़ से ज्यादा पर्यटक यहां आए हैं। अब बड़े बड़े स्टार भी, सेलिब्रिटी भी, विदेशी मेहमान भी कश्मीर में आए बिना जाते नहीं हैं।
From young to old, Prime Minister Modi's visit sparked excitement among local Kashmiris.
मेरा ड्रीम है कि मैं उनसे एक ऑटोग्राफ और सेल्फी लूं।
फैन है आप उनके?
यस, बहुत बड़ा फैन हूं मैं।
जम्मू कश्मीर को अगर बदलने वाला है तो वो श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी है।
A tribute to diversity by the Prime Minister and warm wishes for the upcoming Ramzan and Shivratri.
रमजान के महीने से हर किसी को शांति और सौहार्द का संदेश मिले, यही मेरी कामना है। ये भूमि तो आदि शंकराचार्य की तपोभूमि रही है और कल महाशिवरात्रि है। मैं आपको भी और सभी देशवासियों को भी महाशिवरात्रि के पावन पर्व की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। एक प्रकार से स्वीट रिवॉल्यूशन, हमने ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन सुना है, हमने व्हाइट रिवॉल्यूशन सुना है। आज मेरा कश्मीर नाजिम जैसे युवाओं के कारण स्वीट रिवॉल्यूशन का नेतृत्व कर रहा है।
Adding a personal touch, fulfilling a young local entrepreneur's request for a selfie. Once troubled, now thriving with development, with its snow-capped Himalayan peaks, rushing rivers, historic gardens, and scenic alpine meadows, Naya Kashmir is already attracting tourists seeking respite from the hustle and bustle of the world. Bureau Report, India Today.
Has the Prime Minister been able to deliver on the promise of a Naya Kashmir? Joining us on this broadcast, Ranbir Singh Patania, spokesperson of the Jammu and Kashmir BJP, was an MLA in the state when it did have an active assembly. With us also is Shehla Rashid Chora, policy consultant and researcher. Irfa Jan joins us, social media and digital platforms in charge of the National Congress. I want to go across to Irfa first because the level of enthusiasm that we saw is being highlighted by the BJP as evidence of the fact that Jammu and Kashmir now is seeing a new dawn of development. The fact that corruption is down, the fact that infrastructure projects are actually being executed. They're saying, look at the rally, look at the enthusiasm, evidence of the fact that there is a new Kashmir that is rising. Irfa Jan.
Well, you are discounting the evidence that Umar Abdullah Sahab and National Conference has put forward, where thousands of these people who've actually attended the rally turned out to be government employees. In fact, the list that Umar Sahab has already shared on his Twitter account runs into thousands. These are government employees sitting there and BJP workers. These government employees were told that they have to mandatorily report at Bakshi Stadium at 5 in the morning, and if they failed to do so, they would be thrown out of the jobs. You had the daily wagers and the Anganwadi workers who were forced to go into this rally, and the BJP workers. So let's stop calling it peace, enthusiasm of locals. It was an employee, it was a staged crowd that only had government employees to begin with. Now, coming to the promises that you're saying, the irony of the situation is that the promises that the BJP government used to make to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, not that they acted on any of those promises anytime, they've stopped making those promises also. They did not, at least till last year, they at least used to promise statehood. Diya nahi, but kam se kam bolte the. In this rally, the Prime Minister did not even talk about statehood, something that they promised on the floor of the Parliament again and again. They did not talk about assembly
Let
elections.
Ranbir Patania respond to both your points. One, that these were, many of them were government employees brought in mandatorily. And secondly, that there was no talk about statehood, which is a promise that the BJP made, a promise she claims you've now forgotten about. Ranbir Patania.
Yes. Rahul, thanks. And a very good evening to everybody on board. If in one single sentence we have to sum up Kashmir, this is as good as the Shakespearean epithet in Hamlet: an era ends and a new era begins. So 5th of August 2019 marks the beginning of a new and a golden era in the history of Jammu and Kashmir. Better security environment, nobody will dispute it. Bigger industrial investment, 2 crore tourists, and no stone peltings. Bigger industrial, bigger employment pushes also. And first of all, Dil ki duri or Delhi ki duri, it has reduced. So far as my learned counterpart has been submitting, first of all, I strongly dispute, though it is for the administration to say, for the first time, you have seen that people running and beaming up in crowds voluntarily on the streets of Kashmir just to join Pradhan Mantriji's rally, which is unprecedented in the history of Kashmir. Earlier, Jawaharlal Nehru addressed a rally, some people were telling me, some in late 50s, he led a Shikara rally and people came out voluntarily. People came, and secondly, so far as employees are concerned, if some employees have been deputed there for VIP duty, please don't.
No, absolutely no.
Please don't try to make a mountain out of a molehill.
Okay, Shaila Rashid, where do you come out? Because you've been on both sides of the political fence in Kashmir. What do you make of the charges that are being leveled by the opposition, that these are government employees who've largely been brought in? And the second point about the Prime Minister not speaking about the promise of separate statehood for Jammu and Kashmir. Shaila Rashid.
So first of all, I will address your point, but let me first sort of get out of this debate. In 2011, when I was a college student, I remember that the Honorable Prime Minister at that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he visited Kashmir Valley, and we had to face a total comms gag. There was no internet, no SMS. The mobile towers just vanished because the security situation was such. So today, the biggest takeaway from this rally is that a Prime Minister is visiting Kashmir Valley itself, not Jammu, not Ladakh, Kashmir. And we are running a social media campaign using full-speed broadband, 5G. There is no comms gag. There is no restriction on the mobile towers. So this shows us the massive improvement in the security situation over the last, 10, 12 years that has happened. So I think that is the first takeaway. And as the Honorable LG Saab mentioned in his speech, and I'm speaking as someone who's been concerned about human rights, he said a very important point. He said कि आज किसी भी माँ को अपने बेटे के उसके सामने अपने बेटे को उसको आंखें नहीं खोनी पड़ती, उसको अपना विजन नहीं खोना पड़ता, pellets की वजह से. So I think he touched upon a very important point. We've come out of an era of horrors, where youth were facing pellet guns. There was this cycle of violence. And today we see that era is gone. So
okay,
is it
Irfa Jan, respond to this. One, the era of violence, all the stone pelting, the pellets being fired, young kids being blinded, that's not happening. There is more tourism than there has been, a greater sense that things are calm, they're not as restive and tense as they were earlier. And the fact that internet wasn't shut down, people were free to WhatsApp, message, call, whereas in previous instances when leaders came from Delhi, they had to shut Kashmir down.
You see, the thing, what we're facing right now is Schrodinger's normalcy. This normalcy exists when the BJP wants to promote a message of peace and say, look, everything is hunky-dory. But suddenly this normalcy does not exist when we say that people of Jammu and Kashmir have not been allowed to cast their votes for last 10 years. The last time we had a state election in Jammu and Kashmir, Rahul Saab, was in 2014. When we tell the BJP government, please, even if you hate the national conference, that is okay. Let the people of Jammu and Kashmir cast their ballot. They say, sorry, security situation theek nahi hai. But when the propaganda has to happen, suddenly the security situation is so
Shaila
good.
Rashid, how do you respond to this? If things are as hunky-dory as you say they are, why isn't the BJP government calling for elections? Then let there be elections, let people decide. Ifra, you've spoken. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. We also want to keep it sharp. I'll come back to you for more later. Shaila Rashid, let there be elections.
See, I can't speak for the government of India or for the BJP, but the Supreme Court of India has already directed the government, and as far as I know, the government has filed an affidavit that they will hold election. तो हो जाएगा election, but election is not, मतलब election का क्या करें हम लोग जब तक normalcy नहीं होगी, जब तक peace नहीं होगा. And we've seen in the last 5 years, since August 2019, 32,000 government jobs, including J&K Bank jobs, have been fulfilled. Another 32,000 youth have received skills training under the Himayat scheme. 1,028 services, government services, have been digitalized, so people don't have to supplicate before a bureaucrat or a politician to avail of government services. We've seen 100% saturation in schemes like Ujjwala, which is very important to the women, who have to collect firewood to cook. Old age pension, disability pension, all of those things. And the most successful. I mean, today someone in the rally in a video, he actually said that पहले जब यहाँ कोई बीमार पड़ता था, तो उसको अपना घर बेचना पड़ता था इलाज कराने के लिए. But now we have a general health insurance, which is, which is something that you have in all.
So now, Ifra, respond to what you're hearing from Shaila, because I've been coming to Kashmir for many years. The fact is that a lot of money was pilfered in corruption. It used to come from the center, was never deployed. The government can argue corruption is down. It may not have been eliminated, but it's significantly down. Money coming from Delhi is actually being spent in Srinagar.
Absolutely not. Corruption has gone up. And we not only see local corruption in the BJP administration, we also see corporate corruption taking roots in Jammu and Kashmir, which had never happened. That's number one. The old age pensions and widow pensions that National Conference government and our governments had continued, the BJP has discontinued those old age and handicapped pensions. Coming to the tourism numbers that you're talking of, the tourism numbers, National Conference used to get around 25 lakh tourists. That's exactly the number BJP is getting at this point. Except what they're doing is they're now fudging the tourism numbers by counting yatris as tourists and saying Amarnath yatris or tourists ko mila ke ek number present kar rahe hain. Again, coming to your security situation, you're saying that the security situation has gone better, except in areas of Pir Panjal, areas that until the abrogation of 370 used to be terror-free. We now see they've become hubs of terror. You've never heard of terror attacks in Jammu region. You now have terror attacks happening in Jammu.
Okay, Ranbir Patania, respond to this. The fact that in the upper reaches of the Pir Panjal, there are now terror hideouts, there have been attacks. So it's not as if this Naya Kashmir is entirely peaceful. Terror attacks continue. They happened in the past, they're happening even now.
Rahul, I said earlier also that no disputes over it, no double opinion over it, that the security scenario in Jammu and Kashmir has considerably improved. But if we are not saying that we have created it as a terrorism-free Jammu and Kashmir. So everybody, the people and particularly tourists who upload their selfies from Polo Market of Kashmir at 11 or at 12 at the dead of the night. This itself speaks of the improved security scenario. My very respectful summation with regard to these political parties whose narrative, whose viewpoint, whose political approach, whose political outreach has absolutely been rejected by the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Dens of
no, but if things are as well as you're suggesting, no, but Mr. Patania, if things are as good as you're suggesting, why have we not had elections in Jammu and Kashmir so far?
Absolutely, sir. I'm coming to it. After 5th of 2019, there was a allegation in Jammu and Kashmir that gerrymandering on political basis was being done. Jammu, having bigger areas and bigger populations, was denied of the political justice. After 5th of August 2019, there was a delimitation commission which was set up in Jammu and Kashmir. It virtually took 3 or 4 years this commission to complete its stupendous task. Ultimately, this report was accepted by the Bharat Sarkar, by the Parliament of India, and thereafter a very, very detailed voter revision. And now the Bharat Sarkar has virtually sworn before the Honorable Supreme Court, and the Honorable Supreme Court has also deposed. So this is not like that between...
So if they've committed that there will be elections before September, and the government says we'll stick to that commitment, and it's only now a few months away.
Yes, the government was trying very hard to run away from elections, as they have been doing for past 5 years. And it happened to be the Supreme Court that forced the government to conduct an election. And
we deposed before the Supreme Court. Sorry, please put the facts straight, madam.
Okay, let us speak. Mr. Patania, let us speak, please.
It was the Supreme Court of India that forced this government to conduct an election and say that yes, you will conduct an election. And yet at this point, we do not know whether this government will still continue to run away from elections or not. Ranveer Patania makes another point. He says National Conference has been rejected by the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Ranveer Sahab, it is not National Conference running away from elections. We know who it is. In the recent Ladakh elections that took place, National Conference and our allies, we won 23 out of 26 seats in the Kargil Autonomous Hill Council. In the Kargil Autonomous Hill Council, we won 23 out of 26 seats. You won 3 seats. So please, we know who
earlier we had one.
Okay, Shaila Rashid, how do you respond to the opposition saying that this is very cosmetic? The development is ooper se, because ultimately if you want to make change from within, you have to win the hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Yes. That this is all public infrastructure, Shaila Rashid, that's being developed, which is all well and good, but you aren't going through with the political process to win the hearts and minds of the Kashmiris.
So I want to move away from the political debate because thankfully I'm not a member of any political party yet. So what I want to say here is that today's visit, the Prime Minister's visit today, this is beyond politics. This is beyond elections. This is beyond everything. This is about the nation and this is about security. I completely agree with Ifra, where she has pointed out that there is terrorism in Pir Panjal. There is terrorism in areas where there was no. So we have a mischievous neighbor in our vicinity who is hell-bent on creating problems. So I'm sure that the state is looking at considerations like that. The state has its security and strategic, complications and all of that. And I'm sure that, the one thing that I know is that the Prime Minister, through his guarantee, this Modi ki guarantee that we talk about, this is beyond party lines. This is beyond everything. This is a confidence that if the Prime Minister has said that he will ensure peace, if the Prime Minister has said that he will resolve the existing problems, then he will do it. Because we have a person who is, selflessly thinking about the nation.
Okay, Shaila, I'm very curious. When people watch you say the kind of things that you're doing, they'll wonder what happened here. You have, from the time Prime Minister Modi came to power and even before, been one of the most trenchant critics of the administration in Delhi. And now you seem to be singing a very different tune.
No running away from that, Rahul. I have never tried to whitewash any of my criticisms of the government. So my criticisms were along the lines of human rights, right? And what you see today is respect for law and order, which has allowed people to, to have a clear clarity on what to do, what not to do. So if there is fear of law, and if the youth, because of that, are not going to ISIS, if they are not running towards terrorism, if they are not taking up arms or pelting stones, so probably we needed that kind of a clarity. I mean, we have been, 75 years into our independence, and a short period of 5 or 4 years, within a short period of 4 years, the government has taken various strategic measures. It has downgraded J&K into a UT. It has not conducted elections. Fine, that is all of that is fine. But at the same time, we also need to look at, what are the, in 2023, it was the first time that the full academic calendar in Jammu and Kashmir was followed. अब आप मुझे बताओ, मुझे election, ठीक है, election भी हो जाएगा, लेकिन पहले आप ये देखिए ना, मतलब for the longest time, जब यहाँ पे election होते थे, separatist लोग हमेशा call देते थे boycott का. And they used to be Srinagar का, अगर आप श्रीनगर लोकसभा constituency का देखेंगे और उसके अंदर जो विधानसभा segments आते हैं, उसमें जो voting है वो 20% होती थी. तो जब हम election बोलते हैं, we also have to think about deepening of democracy. And what has the government done for deepening of democracy? You see for the first time that BDC polls were held. You see for the first time that panchayat members are not being targeted. तो मुझे बताइए, डेमोक्रेसी क्या सिर्फ दो परिवार के लिए है, या डेमोक्रेसी जो है वो जो 30,000 रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स हैं, जो समझ लीजिए 12-15,000 फैमिलीज को रिप्रेजेंट करते होंगे, क्या वो डीपनिंग ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी नहीं है?
You spoke of the fear of law. Your critic, Shaila, frankly, who are watching at this time will say Shaila fears the law, that the government's got something on her which has got her scared, which is why she's done this somersault. That you're fearing something, that they've got you on something. How do you respond to that?
For the longest time,
can I come in now, Rahul?
There was a perception for the longest time that, India is a soft state. I mean, you've seen, for example, you've seen what Hamas did in Israel and how Israel responded, right? They pulverized Gaza. There have been more than 30,000 civilians have been killed. The international community is not batting an eyelid. That's a hard state, right? How did India respond to the Pulwama attack, right? For the longest time, like, India has been perceived as like a soft state. But however, now India is showing clarity. We are not warming up to Pakistan. We are not tolerating incursions from Pakistan. We are not tolerating threats against...
This is very unfair, You're just not allowing the other panelists to speak, Rahul.
Let us speak.
And we are not tolerating separatism. That has given the youth of the valley. So all of us, even when we were in politics, we were, towing this kind of soft separatist line which had been made fashionable by TV at that time, right? But the government has shown clarity, and because of clarity, if people are respecting the law of the land, what's wrong in that?
Okay, so let Ifra respond to what she's hearing from you. And many of the supporters of Prime Minister Modi and the BJP who are watching at this time, Ifra will say, अगर शहला को समझ में आ गया तो सबको समझ में आ जाएगा, आप ही को समझ में नहीं आ रहा. Look at how Kashmir has changed. She's talking about fear of law, she's talking about reduced violence. She's saying Kashmir can't be the monopoly of two families, it can't be a duopoly.
You really don't need to repeat all of that to me. I was here in the debate, hearing every bit of it. I just hope that I get as much time as my learned counterpart got, and you will not cut me short. That is all I expect from you. Number one, my dear friend talked about sarpanches, and she said how sarpanches are not being targeted. Except there are no sarpanches present in Jammu and Kashmir. Their mandate and their term got over last year, and this government has refused to conduct even a sarpanch election. कोई सरपंच ही नहीं है जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में, वो इलेक्शंस भी सस्पेंड हो गए हैं. She talked about the municipality council election. Municipality council की भी term खत्म हो गई last year. There is no municipality council. So there is no grassroots democracy whatsoever, which is not to say that grassroots democracy in any way can replace the assembly elections at any time. So forget assembly elections. You have no sarpanches, you have no corporators, you have no municipal elections. You have a complete control by an unelected BJP government. To say that, look how Jammu and Kashmir has changed. Please tell me what has changed. That's what I'm saying. If the BJP government is so scared of facing the people who should be the first primary witnesses to change, then who are you telling that there is change? फिर बीजेपी सरकार लोगों से इतना डरती क्यों है जब इतनी चेंज हो गई है?
Okay, let Shaila respond to that. Shaila?
One last point I would like to make.
Ifra, you speak the longest and then you complain that you're not allowed to speak. That's really unfair. I've been a college debater. It's a very standard debating tactic. Speak the longest and accuse the moderator of then being unfair. You've spoken the most, so let Shaila respond.
So I'll again say the same thing. I'm not a spokesperson for the BJP or the government, but the government has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying that they will conduct assembly elections. And I hope to see my dear friend Ifra being a candidate in assembly elections. I hope she, contests elections. She is an articulate lawyer, and I hope that she is one of the representatives. And I think you should really gear up for the elections, Ifra, because the government has actually filed an affidavit saying they will conduct elections. So if that's your biggest concern, then I think, we might be closer to that than you think.
Ranbir Patania, while you've been able to win over the likes of Sheila Rashid, Ifra Jan seems completely unconvinced.
I am a member of a political party which is National.
Rahul, my very sweet and submissive questions to Ifra Jan and all the political parties who had been clinging to the power echelon since the 7 decades as to why three-tier system which was available, which was in position in the rest of the country, why it was not in Jammu and Kashmir, why real financial and decision-making powers were not vested. Sheila Rashid is right saying only 2 families enjoy the autonomy and enjoy the democracy. Why political reservation not in Jammu and Kashmir and in the rest of the country? Why Forest Rights Act in the rest of the country and not in Jammu and Kashmir? So the entire legal and constitutional framework which benefited the people of Jammu and Kashmir was not allowed to come in Jammu and Kashmir because Article 370 was there. And what benefited the dynasts? What benefited their petty interest? It was given a absolutely come and go, very free and smooth come and go in Jammu and Kashmir. You need to question, sir. In Jammu and Kashmir, we had SPs, superintendents of police appointed through the back doors, not constable, not sub-inspector, not DYSPs, superintendents, relatives of Dr.
If I respond to this, a lot of people watching will resonate with this theme that Kashmir earlier was really a duopoly between the Abdullahs and the Muftis. Now at least there are new voices, new faces that are emerging and have an equal chance.
Absolutely.
Kashmir, Rahul, was a democracy.
Political consideration.
Okay, let Ifra speak, please.
Kashmir, Rahul, was a democracy, and in a democracy, people are allowed to vote for whoever they want to vote for. And let's not forget that until 3 years back, this person, BJP representative here, was in an alliance and a part of the PDP government. So let's stop doing Parivarvad, when you were actually in alliance with Parivar until 3-4 years back. So
okay, let Mr. Patania respond to it. When you are in alliance with the Parivar, then the Parivar isn't a problem. The Parivar goes and starts speaking against you, then suddenly the Parivar becomes a problem.
Rahul, I was also part of that Sarkar. I was the MLA at that time. And I was awarded the best MLA award by that legislative assembly. So let me
so
have
you
on
were
it.
in a Parivar Sarkar.
There was a please, madam, please. So see, in view of the separate decisions, we could say the decisive mandates given by the Jammu and Kashmir. The Kashmir mandate was in favor of People's Democratic Party and Jammu's mandate was in favor of Bharatiya Janata Party. So in order to respect the mandate of the people, no alliance, simply an agenda of alliance was drafted and the government was tried to be crafted. But it was we who broke the alliance, who broke the Sarkar. We brought down our own Sarkar because Sarkar was going awry. The public interest was
you didn't break the Sarkar.
Okay, so you've heard from the government, you've heard from voices of the opposition, and you've heard from those who've had a change of heart. I want to wrap up over here. Whether or not there is a new Kashmir is really something which each person has to decide. Go to Kashmir, experience what's happening, see the good, the bad, the not so good, and then come to your own conclusion. On balance and in aggregate, is the Naya Kashmir better than the Purana Kashmir? That's the decision that people need to take, and the best way to find out is to travel to Kashmir, which is what the Prime Minister said. In fact, come wed in Kashmir. Have your marriages, instead of going to Lake Como, come to Pahalgam, Gulmarg, Shormarg, get married there. And that's one way of discovering Kashmir as well. So thank you for joining us. We've touched upon different points of view in this conversation.